Okay, good. So you're working with them?
Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Finance, Ways and Means Committee to order for April 19th, 2022. This is on finance time. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Representatives Campbell, Camper, Crawford, Faison, Freeman, Gant,
Here.
Garrett, Gillespie, Hawk, Hicks, Hodges, Lamberth, Lynn, Miller, Ogles, Sexton, Shaw, Sparks, Todd, Whitson, Williams, Wendell, Zachary, Vice Chairman Baum, Chair Lady Hazelwood.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any personal orders or announcements? Representative Sparks.
Yeah, I've got a couple guests in the audience. Michael Carnes, filmmaker out of Franklin. Michael, stand up. He helped us on the John DeBerry little documentary we did. And Ralph Weber, author of the book Rigged. He flew up from Houston this morning to testify for Tasser. Y'all make them feel welcome.
Welcome, gentlemen, and we're sorry that we made you wait a bit. Hopefully the show will be worth your while. Leader Lamberth.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And Representative Terry Lynn Weaver and Representative Garrett and I would like to make welcome one of the absolute best clerks in the great state of Tennessee, who's been doing this for decades, literally, and unfortunately is retiring this year. But Bill Kemp, if you would rise and please let us make you feel welcome, please, sir.
Congratulations, sir, and best wishes on your retirement. Representative Freeman.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'd like to welcome all those in the audience wearing purple today in support of our trans kids across the state.
Are there any other personal orders or announcements? Seeing none, we have 18 bills on our calendar today, and just for scheduling purposes, please know we will go through these 18 bills on Finance Full. We will have a short break, and then we will follow up with Finance Sub, where we will be taking up the budget. So just for planning purposes. Item number 1 on our calendar is House Bill 2147 by Chairman Moody. Chairman Moody, you have a motion and a second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady Hazelwood and members. Today, this number 1 on your calendar is for addressing the human trafficking evil that we know exists in our state and across our country, across the world. And so what this bill basically does, there is a international group called Shared Hope, and their goal is to help states. They evaluate what our laws are that are fighting the trafficking issue, and it ranges from everything from the crime itself to helping victims and survivors and everything in between. So what they do is grade us, and so I serve on the TBI Human Trafficking Advisory Board, and we've done really well as a state. We are usually number 1, and no thanks without the help of Representative Jim Coley and the hard work that he did on this issue. He led the way and took us in as freshmen, Mary Littleton and Don White and I, and offered to take us in this fight. So this bill, what this bill is going to do is it's a kind of a cleanup bill and making technical changes to how we can get up in that number 1 spot again with this agency. And so it does address several factors, again, as I said, related to survivors of human trafficking and especially the victims of commercial sexual exploitation of a minor. And I could go on and on. There's several sections, but I will respect your time. And if there's any questions I can answer, I'll be happy to do so.
I've heard the sponsor's explanation, and I will note that there is a funding letter that takes care of the fiscal note on this. Are there questions of the sponsor? The question has been called on the bill. Any objections to calling the question? Seeing none, we're voting on House Bill 2147. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 2147 moves on to calendar and rules. Chairman Moody, you also have item number 2 on our calendar, House Bill 751. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady and committee again. This bill, if I could give just a short connection to my past here. About 7, 8 years ago, Senator Dolores Gresham and I sponsored the original bill that set up the individual education program for special needs students. And at that time, it was very tightly drawn as far as which special needs were able to apply for this if the parents chose this route. And so what we're doing here today, it's been 7 years, we are just asking to add dyslexia, which would come under the heading and code is called specific learning disability, to this account program. And there are some disabilities that I could explain a little bit more, but again, I can offer you time to ask me questions about this. Again, it's very tightly, the parents have to apply. The state we set up, and when we did the rulemaking procedures, they have a very tight, they're only awarded the money quarterly. They have to have receipts. There's an approved vendor list that they can only use. And if any money is misspent as they go back and audit, they do pay it back. They are required to pay it back. And so right now in the program that we've had the last 7 years, there's right at a little couple under 300 students that are participating statewide. So when we ran this bill, we believed most parents are satisfied with the services their children are getting. That was weird. Are you telling me to hush? That's okay. Maybe you were saving me from myself. I don't know. But we did hear from parents who, for whatever reasons, felt like their child needed something else in another avenue. So that is what drove this. And we just are asking to add the students that are identified as dyslexic to this legislation, to this program that's existing.
Thank you, Madam Sponsor, for that explanation. We do have questions, beginning with Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just, we already have this program. You're just adding kids with dyslexia. If I can say the word to it, is what you're saying, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Chairman Hicks.
Thank you, Chair Lady. And Chair Lady Moody, can you tell me how effective has this program been with school vouchers? How have we seen any results? So what are we getting, I guess?
I think sometimes those things, again, we're dealing with special needs, and sometimes some of those, it's what I've heard a parent say. I'll just give you one example of a personal answer I can give you from someone I met, a parent. Her child was autistic, nonverbal, and was not making any headway, and then took advantage of a program. And she said he is now in a program where he is talking. And in her words, she said, we now have hope that he's made such great progress, he could live on his own and have some type of small job and be independent. And so, that's just going to vary with the different disabilities and if they got early interventions. And so with this, that's kind of a hard way to answer. So we would probably, the parents could give that best answer. And, if what they've chosen to do outside of the public school is not working, they certainly are able to bring that child back into the public school. So I don't know if that helped you any. I even met a parent 2 weeks ago whose child was in a private school, parochial school, and it wasn't working. And so she took her child, put him in the public school, and she was just so happy with the results. So, it kind of cuts both ways, but it's kind of hard to answer with that. And again, with the low number of participants that we've had since the implementation, that kind of was our expectation. We were not surprised by that because it is the public schools are doing a good job with what the resources they have. I think about this shortage of teachers now that, our hats, I know we all appreciate everything that they're doing, but those anecdotal specific ones might be the best I can give you today.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Lady. Thank you, Chair Lady Moody.
Representative Ogles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I love this piece of legislation because and you know this from earlier, like I guess still suffers from dyslexia pretty severely. And in a lot of the school systems I found, because of the stress it even put on me as a student, a lot of times the teachers would not even call on me to, for instance, read or do certain things because they knew the interaction would be so stressful and then get teased, and kids, it's more traumatic than it's helpful sometimes. So the specialized training, especially with dyslexia and some of the other learning disabilities, and the one-on-one interaction that comes with that is vitally important. So, and I do trust that parents know best what's for their children. So I love your piece of legislation. Thank you.
Chairman Wendell, you're recognized.
What data do we use currently to determine if these children are doing well in public schools?
Representative Moody.
I believe they are tested, and with some of the special needs, I think they take the TCAP, and there may be a couple, when they're in the public school, there may be another test they take. It's a special ed department, and
Right, but how do we identify if a dyslexic child is performing well or not performing well? What is the parameter? What's the matrix that the current system uses to identify if my colleague is not performing up to grade level or above grade level? Because some dyslexic children do really well.
yes, they have to be identified by the school psychologist and have an IEP.
And under your bill, how will we determine if these children that have this, I'm not sure it's a disability, but this condition, how do we determine if they're doing well? What kind of testing will they use to determine if they're performing well?
The TCAP.
Same test across this system as opposed to the new system. Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions for the sponsor?
I just want to follow up.
Chairman Wendell.
Do these schools take the TCAT?
I don't know. I can't keep up with all of it. I know there's testing, there's end of course testing, there's TCAP, there's.
All right. Representative Garrett, I had you on the list as well.
I call previous question.
Any objection to previous questions? Seeing none, we are voting on House Bill 2147. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 2147 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, committee and Chair
I'm sorry,
Lady.
I just misspoke. House Bill 751 moves on to calendar and rules. 2147 was already there. They can join together.
Thank you.
Item number 3 on our calendar is House Bill 2316 by Chairman Reagan. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Reagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Lady and Committee. Some of you are aware of a bill that we passed earlier that was aimed at K through 12 and limiting participation in sports to, if you will, boys playing boys, girls playing girls. And you may wonder why I'm bringing this bill, which is very similar. Let me read to you from the Tennessean. The Metro Nashville School Board of Education recently declined to update the district policy regarding student athlete eligibility to align with the new state law limiting which sports transgender athletes can participate in. In other words, they're thumbing their nose at us. This bill applies to middle school, high school, and importantly, something the other bill didn't apply to, post-secondary education, that is to say, colleges and universities that are state funded. This new emphasis basically says that intercollegiate teams designated for females, women, or girls will will not be open to students of the biological male sex. This does not apply to co-ed or mixed sports. And the determination of the sex is going to be as listed on the student's original birth certificate. The bill provides for someone to get injunctive relief in court to enforce this bill, which is something Metro Nashville School Board will undoubtedly not appreciate. But the enforcement mechanism will be a court-ordered injunction, and it will also require that if the school loses, that they pay for the attorney fees for the person who's bringing the injunctive suit. In summary, biological males must compete against biological males, not biological females. For millennia, this has been a common sense issue for fairness and safety. With that explanation, Madam Chair and Committee, I stand ready to answer questions.
You've heard the sponsor's explanation. Are there questions? Seeing none, we're voting on House Bill 2316. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 2316 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee.
Item number 4 on our calendar for today is House Bill 2228 by Chairman Ramsey. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Ramsey, you are recognized.
Thank you, Ms. Chairman. This House Bill 2228 is a response to the situation that we're facing across the United States. All of the U.S. has a crisis of fatal drug overdoses. Tennessee, like other states, has had approximately a 50% increase per year, especially exacerbated by the pandemic. In Tennessee, we have the 40th highest fatal overdose record. There are 52 citizens per 100,000 when the average in the United States is only 30 per 100,000. What this bill does, as amended, requires a health care prescriber to offer a prescription for opioid antagonist or a similar FDA-approved drug to a patient who is prescribed an opioid and that meets certain criteria. This excludes, in the nature of incremental health, this excludes those opioid prescriptions in part of their palliative care treatment and prescribed by a licensed veterinarian. So with that explanation pending questions, I would renew your motion.
You've heard from the sponsor. Are there any questions? Question has been called on the bill. We think it was very nice of you, Chairman Ramsey, to renew your motion.
I was glad to get one, madam.
It worked. The question has been called. All those in favor of House Bill 2531, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and House Bill 2531 moves on to calendar and rules. I'm sorry, I apologize. Lack of sleep and many other things have impacted my reading ability today. I got ahead of ourselves, Chairman Ramsey. We were on House Bill 2228. So all those, just to be really clear, we're voting on House Bill 2228. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes still have it. But now we're moving House Bill 2228 to calendar and rules, and next we're taking up House Bill 2531. And we have a motion and a second. Chairman Ramsey, you're recognized.
And thank you, Madam Speaker, Madam Chairman. I guess this does not give me a hall pass on this bill, so I will go ahead and explain it. This bill is for licensed professional counselors. We, at the current time, unfortunately, consequence of the pandemic, we're in a health counselor crisis across the United States. In Tennessee, there are 77% in the U.S., 77% of the counties have a severe counselor shortage, and 20% are leaving the profession each year. So what this bill does is changes certain requirements for professional counselors seeking licensure. It allows for a temporary license to be valid for up to 4 years and to be eligible for extension at the discretion of the Board of Professional Counselors. That Board of Professional Counselors has put together a regulatory group of codes and requirements. And what this does is take us from previous code and essentially cleans up the legislation that refines requirements for licensure, removes some required hours and leaves that up to the board. The bill states that a candidate for licensure must have completed supervised field experience, and the term master's degree has been changed to postgraduate degree along with the guidelines of the board. And we have extended by 1 year the board's ability to have the discretion on granting licensure. So with that and pending any questions, I would renew that fabulous motion that I got.
Madam Chairman, I see an old friend in the back of the room who's chatting with another old friend in the back of the room, but Representative Mike Turner has joined us today. Good to see you today, Representative Turner.
And Chairman Ramsey, I would just say thank you for bringing this bill. I know mental health providers in my area are finding it very challenging to, just as many other workforce issues that we're faced with, but they're finding very challenging to get the qualified folks that they need to treat the people who are coming and asking for treatment. So this should alleviate that situation to some degree, and we appreciate your efforts. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we are voting on House Bill 2531. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and House Bill 2531 now moves to calendar and rules along with House Bill 2228. Thank you, Chairman Ramsey.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Item number 6 on our agenda is House Bill 2585 by Chairman Rudd. You have a motion and a second. Chairman Rudd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a bill brought to by the Secretary of State. This is, as you know, we have one of the safest, most fairest election processes in the nation. We're always consistently in the top 3. This would bring an automatic for multiple counties for August. We would have 3 counties that would randomly be selected by the Secretary of State to be audited, and 6 counties for the November election. Those counties, 35 counties that currently are automatically audited that have an optical scanner would continue and be unchanged. The staff would be properly trained by the federal standards. And there is a funding letter for this for the Help America Vote Act. Also, there is a duplicate bill, a part of this going through that creates a pilot program for Williamson County. That was in the event this bill didn't go through. That exact wording is in this bill as well.
You've heard the sponsor's explanation. And as he noted, the funding has been acquired from the Secretary of State's office and through some federal funds that were available for this type of effort. Are there any questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, we're voting on House Bill 2585. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 2585 moves on to
Thank you,
calendar
Chairman.
and
Thank you,
rules.
committee.
Thank you, Chairman Rudd. Item number 7, House Bill 2246 by Chairman Vaughn. You have a motion and a second. Chairman Vaughn, you're recognized.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and committee. House Bill 2246 is a critical infrastructure preemption bill. What it does, it considers the fact that industrial and energy infrastructure is critical for the development of our state. Infrastructure, including pipelines, terminals, and pump stations, provide affordable and reliable, sustainable fuel and industrial materials. This infrastructure, typically delivery to locales, is a multi-jurisdictional effort. It covers more than just one municipality or one county. And so what this bill will do is it allows those areas to influence and control this development through zoning, yet it does not allow them to completely prohibit the development of these projects. And I'll be happy to answer any questions, Madam Chairman.
Are there questions of the sponsor? Seeing that this is a very easy group today. Oh, I spoke too quickly. Leader Camper. All right, the question has been called. Seeing no objection to calling of the question, we are voting on House Bill 2246. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? No. The ayes have it. House Bill 2246 moves on to calendar and rules. If anyone on this bill or any others would like to be recorded as a no, then please see the clerk.
Thank you, committee.
Item number 8 on our calendar is House Bill 2303 by Representative Cochran. We have a motion and a second. Representative Cochran, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady and Committee. House Bill 2303, it allows a county government to provide a county employee a financial incentive to go on their spouse's health insurance. And I'll yield to any questions.
Are there questions of the sponsor? Question has been called. We're voting on House Bill, without objection, we're voting on House Bill 2633. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 2633 moves on to calendar and rules. Item number 10.
Sorry, I was thinking I had one more. Am I not?
Number 9. I really do need a nap. House Bill 2633 is next on our agenda, item number 9. Representative Cochran, I just thought you had completed your work, but
no problem.
We still have work to do. We have a motion and a second. House Bill 2633, sponsor, please tell us what it does.
Thank you, Chair Lady. House Bill 2633, it provides protection to public school districts and public school teachers if they choose to use pronouns based on a student's birth sex. I will yield to any questions.
You've heard the explanation. Are there questions? You've heard the explanation. Without questions, we're voting on, I'm sorry, Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Sponsor, I got a whole lot of emails on this bill asking me not to vote for it. Can you explain why so many people are against it, I guess? It's a question.
Representative, obviously, I have not read those emails, so I can't explain to you why they are against it. I can tell you, again, that the bill is to protect against compelled speech in public schools. So, but having not read those emails, I cannot tell you why they are against it.
So,
Representative Shaw.
you've had no one LEA people, people and teachers, people like that to email you about this bill?
Representative Cochran.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Chair Lady. I did, didn't I? Promotion. I'm reading on this House Bill 2633. If found in violation of federal law, this legislation could jeopardize federal fundings, FY 22, 23, and subsequent years. Is that accurate, or how do we explain that?
Representative Miller, so yeah, the best way I know how to answer that question is in the 40+ years that Title IX has been implemented, no public school has ever lost funding under Title IX.
Okay.
Representative Freeman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'm just going to repeat the comments I made before. And I find it extremely disappointing that we would be working on a bill that allows teachers that are meant to support and encourage the growth of their students to be able to disrespect them, and that's what this does. What someone what pronouns they decide to use. I think people are rightly forgiven for not using someone's preferred pronouns on first introduction. But if someone tells me that they would like to be called X, Y, or Z, I have enough respect for them to respect their wishes. And this is again allowing people who I think should be in a position of extreme support and helping these children grow to disrespect them. Do you have a comment on that?
Representative Cochran.
Representative, yes, I think teachers would still be expected to treat students with respect, but I think that you would agree with me that we also that teachers deserve respect, and that teachers' freedom of speech does not end when they walk in to the classroom. Teachers have a freedom of speech that includes a freedom not to speak. You cannot compel someone to say something.
So if a teacher decided to use a racial slur, you would support that freedom of speech?
I would not, and I'm not going to go down that road with you.
Representative Freeman, if we could keep to topic, please. Representative, question has been called. Any objection to calling the question? We're voting on previous question. All in favor of calling the question, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The ayes have it. We're on previous question. We're voting on House Bill 2633 by Representative Cochran. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The ayes have it. Again, if you would like to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk. And
Thank you, Chair
once
Lady.
again, we have a housekeeping matter to clean up. Representative Cochran, don't go away, please. Item number 8, House Bill 2303. I inadvertently used the wrong number when we sent it to Calendar and Rules. So again, just to be clear, we're voting on House Bill 2303 that was previously explained by the sponsor. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 2303 moves on to Calendar and Rules.
Thank you, Chair Lady and
That brings us now to item 10. Representative Beck, you have a motion and a second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. This particular bill is brought to me by the Hotel Association. This bill would allow metropolitan government to levy up to a 1% hotel motel tax. This up to 1% would only occur if the total financing package for a dome stadium of over 50,000 seats was completed. This dome stadium, that this up to 1% tax would be a part of the financing puzzle, would be primarily where the Tennessee Titans would play, and also an economic incentive for the city and the state. If we were able to put this together, and it's still an if, this would bring not only a Super Bowl, WrestleMania, NCAA football playoffs, NCAA Final Four, NFL Combine, and significant other economic engines. For example, a Super Bowl alone in Miami in 2020 generated over $571 million in economic growth. So with that, Madam Chair, I stand ready to
We,
take questions.
All right, Representative Beck, I believe you have described the bill as amended, but we do need to attach the amendment that makes the bill. Drafting code 016956. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of amendment drafting code 016956, please signify by saying aye.
A little wild.
Any opposed?
No.
Again, if you'd like to be recorded as no, please see the clerk. But the amendment is attached, and you've heard, I believe that makes the bill.
It does. I apologize, Madam Chair.
All right, the question has been called on the bill. All right. Chairman Todd, I believe that you had something you wanted to say for the record. Is that correct?
Well, I do have some questions first, I guess. So you mentioned this financing puzzle. You mentioned this financing puzzle that's being put together for this stadium. Is a piece of that puzzle an agreement by Metro Nashville to fund some portion of this puzzle?
Chairman Todd, we have, there was question called on the bill. We have objection to the question, so I think in order to be fair, we'll need to vote. So the objection to calling the question, those in favor of calling the question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
The noes have it. We're back on the bill. Chairman Todd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned this financing puzzle that's being put together to get this project done. Is part of that puzzle Metro Nashville's involvement to some degree, some amount of money they're supposed to produce in this puzzle?
Representative Beck.
Yes, Chairman Todd, that is correct.
Representative Todd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it sounds to me with this bill that Metro Nashville's plan to come up with their portion of this puzzle is to put that on the backs of my constituents and many constituents of my colleagues here, not yours, because yours live here, but ours get to pay this bill on behalf of Metro Nashville. Would that be an accurate assessment?
Representative Beck.
The majority of the people who lease the hotels and the motels are here on conventions and for other reasons. It would be on people coming in from out of town, if that answers your question.
Chairman Todd.
Well, it certainly does. I think it goes to the point I was making, is that the folks that don't live here, it won't be Metro Nashville making the payments on this. They're going to just be collecting the money from my constituents in order to make their portion of this deal work with this puzzle that you mentioned. And I have a big problem with that. My constituents have a big problem. They're already paying very high prices for staying in Nashville as it is, as we are. So to add more insult to that injury, I think is actually going to drive people away from staying in Nashville, and they're going to go to the outlying communities more than likely. And so you're not going to get the revenue that you would have, and that's been predicted, is what I would argue about this. There's just a lot of things wrong with this whole picture of what you're presenting here with this puzzle that we're supposed to jump on board with and support so that Nashville can have some betterment. There's a lot of academic research on stadium subsidies, and most reach a unanimous conclusion that stadium subsidies don't pay for themselves. They don't create net economic growth. Certainly there's a gross economic growth, but there's a lot of cost with that. And they don't provide effective improvements to community welfare. The cost benefit analysis provided by team officials or F&A is fundamentally flawed. There are more valuable alternatives to fund using the $500 million proposed for the Tennessee Titans stadium subsidies. these sports subsidies rarely pay for themselves. I mean, studies have proven there's a document that has been produced by several organizations that have worked together that say they do not work, that the communities are left holding the bag for this once they're passed. They fail to create the economic growth that's predicted. There's academic research on the effect of subsidizing professional sports, and it shows that they fail to find much in terms of redeeming qualities. Leading sports economics researchers, Dennis Coates with the University of Maryland and Brad Humphreys with the University of West Virginia, in a 2008 review of academic research stated, we find near unanimity in the conclusion that stadiums, arenas, and sports franchises have no consistent positive impact on jobs, income, and tax revenues. J.C. Bradbury with Kennesaw State University joined Coates and Humphreys earlier this year to release an updated review of the entire body of academic research on the effects of stadium subsidies. They covered more than 130 studies spanning over 30 years. So this is not a short, brief study at all. Their too long didn't read conclusion is recent analyses continue to confirm the decades-old consensus of very limited economic impacts of professional sports teams and stadiums, even with the added non-pecuniary social benefits from quality of life externalities and civic pride. Welfare improvements from hosting teams tend to fall well short of covering public outlays. Thus, the large subsidies commonly devoted to constructing professional sports venues are not justified as worthwhile public investments. I would also argue our job as legislators by the Constitution is not to invest money. It is to protect the freedoms and liberties of our citizens. And if this is a great idea, then the Titans team and other investment firms will be glad to swoop in and reap the benefits from such a project. I cannot see any benefits to doing this at this point in time, and I cannot support this piece of legislation to fund Nashville's portion of this puzzle on the backs of my constituents. So I appreciate your time, sir.
Representative Garrett, you're recognized.
Could I respond, Madam Chair?
Sorry, Representative Beck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The state invests all the time. ECD, economic development, is in your neck of the woods just one of the largest investments that we've made ever as a state. The Tennessee Titans bring, and pro football bring an economic engine to this state every time that they play. They were out in front of this nation as an elite city, as an elite state. And the economic studies that you referred to, a lot of those were talked about when they first came here 20 years ago. Well, it's been a fantastic marriage for Nashville, Middle Tennessee, and the state with the economic generation. This hotel tax, or ability to raise a tax, was brought by the Hotel Association. They see the value in this expansion, not only as Dallas Stadium is used, Texas Stadium's used for different conventions, for different events throughout the year, not just limiting it to a season during the good weather of the year, but year-round attractions for conventions, for sporting events, for all different types of use, WWE, different conventions that will generate economic development for years to come. And so far, it's worked out great. I'm not sure if you've been to a game, but when you go to a game, we have people from all around the nation that follow these teams religiously and come to our city, lease their hotel room, eat with us, spend their money. And it's one of the main reasons that Davidson County has been able to generate approximately a third of all state sales tax. And I think we need to continue that. And this is just another tool in our tool chest to continue that economic growth and economic prosperity for not only Middle Tennessee, but the entire state.
Representative Todd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned the investment and that we invest all the time. Some of the things you mentioned were investments in publicly owned property. We invest in state parks a lot. We own those state parks. The citizens of this state own those state parks. Can you tell me that the state of Tennessee owns this property where this stadium would be built with this money?
Representative Beck.
It no more owns this property than General Motors property in Spring Hill when we invested there.
Representative Todd.
Well, I wasn't involved in that one, but many of the ones I've been involved in here in my time here have been state-owned properties, property that the state has owned that we're improving. But you mentioned that the hotels are all in favor of this. You know, if this is going to be such a big win for them, then why wouldn't they invest part of their money into this versus getting taxpayer dollars from my taxpayers, my constituents that are going to come to Nashville and stay for various things? This isn't going to be just a tax on things that are people that visit just for a venue or things at that venue. This is going to be for any hotel stays, and I'm sure they're going to implement this tax no matter what. If we give them the authority to, they're going to implement it. But if those hotels and other facilities that can implement this tax really like it and think there's going to be such a real increase in business, then they would invest their own money into it. They wouldn't be asking my constituents to pay for it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Garrett, you recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of questions, Representative Beck. Thanks for bringing this legislation. I share my colleagues' concerns regarding some of its implications, but I'm curious and if you don't know, this may be a question for legal, but what is the current motel hotel tax in Davidson County right now?
Representative Beck.
6%.
And then within that 6%, the county has discretion whether or not to charge up to that 6%. So my question is, are they charging that full 6% right now?
Representative Beck.
We might need to go out of session. I'm not sure about that, Representative Garrett.
Well,
we don't have anyone on the list, so
I'm good.
Representative Garrett.
I would assume the legislation increases this by 1% for it to be able to charge at 1%. So you can make a safe assumption that they're maxed out on that 6% to charge, since they're coming here for us to authorize them to charge an additional 1% to fund the investment for and around the Titan Stadium. So my question is, and my concern is that you are authorizing, what we're doing here is authorizing the city of Nashville to then increase taxes. Is that an accurate statement?
Representative Beck.
Yes, we are giving the metropolitan government the ability to raise the hotel motel tax by 1%, up to 1%.
Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My final comment is you said this legislation is brought to you by the Hotel Association. And I would say the Hotel Association will be all about this particular legislation because they don't collect the fee. They get none of this. This is on the backs of Tennesseans and whoever's coming in to the state. This is simply a pass-through. So the Hotel Association wouldn't care if it was 6%, 10%, or 30%, because they care about occupancy rates and people coming here and making sure their bottom lines are met by the people coming here. So that concerns me, like my colleague, Representative Todd, that of course they would be for this particular legislation. But here what we're doing is asking us to authorize a city to raise taxes, and I just cannot support that particular legislation. But thank you for bringing that, Representative Beck.
Representative Beck.
The Hotel Motel Association would not be willing to support this if they didn't think they were going to be able to lease more rooms. If they thought this would be of a negative effect, not worth the investment, they would not be supporting this and be at the table saying, we'll collect that for you, because we know that that'll bring in more visitors. We know that that'll lease more rooms and not the alternative.
Representative Ogles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to that statement, so we're raising taxes to increase revenue for private corporations that in turn would like the state to revert taxes to private corporations, all on the taxpayers' backs. I understand what you're doing and you've got a great heart, but I will not be supporting this legislation. Thank you.
Chairman Faison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to make a comment that Nashville and the hotels in Nashville lobbied heavily against the Airbnb bill we had this year, which would have expanded the tax base. And they could have used that money without raising taxes on anybody who comes here. They could have used all that additional revenue, but they chose to stand together and raise hotel motel tax instead of expanding the base, which I think policy-wise would have been far better expanding the base.
Representative Sparks.
Yeah, Representative, appreciate your passion and you represent your district. Can you tell us where the most expensive city is for hotel stays?
Representative Beck.
I cannot.
It's Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville beats out New York City, Boston, all these other cities, San Jose, San Francisco, Albuquerque, Austin, Los Angeles, Dallas, and Detroit as the highest. You know, the point of diminishing returns, where is that? Is it, you know, how much tax do we want to put on folks where the cutoff comes down, where people aren't flocking to Nashville? They're not coming here because I haven't seen the benefits in my district. I'm just right outside. The cost of housing has gone up. Everything has gone up. I don't see how this is going to benefit. I really don't see how it's going to benefit. But just folks, remember, many of you stay in Nashville. The highest is Nashville, Tennessee. That's not according to me. That's according to cheaphotels.org if you want to look it up. Thank you, Representative.
The question has been called on the bill. All those in favor of House Bill 681, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. House Bill 681 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee.
Representative Beck, you get to stay with us. We have item number 11 on our calendar, House Bill 2448. We have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second. Representative Beck, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the authorization for a 5% tax for the National Museum of African American Music. For those of y'all who have not visited, it's at 5th and Broad. It's an amazing facility. You will so enjoy it if you get a chance to go. And with that, I stand ready to take any questions.
And again, Representative Beck, I believe we have a drafting.
Oh, I'm sorry,
an
Madam
amendment
Chair.
that makes the bill. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. We're drafting code 016143, which I believe does make the bill. Is that correct, Representative
That's
Beck?
correct.
So we're voting on the amendment. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Drafting code 016143 is now traveling with the bill, and Representative Beck has explained the bill as amended, I believe. Are there questions for the representative? Question has been called on the bill. Without objection, we're voting on House Bill 2448. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Once again, if you'd like to be recorded as a no on any of these bills, please see the clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee.
Your bill moves on to calendar and rules. Item number 12 on our agenda is House Bill 2152 by Representative Hicks of Washington. Representative Hicks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady.
You do have a motion and a second.
House Bill 2152 is the Give Hope Expansion Act of 2022. House Bill 2152 is about expanding new opportunities for students from the ages of 16 to 24. Currently, millions of young adults in this age group is neither working nor enrolled in school, a group often referred to as opportunity youth. 12.6% of Tennesseans ages 16 to 24 fit into the opportunity youth category. There is an estimated 30,000 opportunity youth in Memphis alone. This bill encourages the Tennessee College of Applied Technology to establish technical middle college programs in partnerships with LEAs that permit students to earn an advanced technical certificate and a diploma by high school graduation. Students have the opportunity to graduate with post-secondary credit and nationally recognized technical certificates from a variety of industries and develop employability skills such as problem solving, project completion, research, communication, time management, and critical thinking. The bill expands the dual enrollment grant and will be available beginning in the student's freshman year of high school. This change will provide enough time and the opportunity for those who are ready to earn a work-ready certificate by graduation. House Bill 2152 also expands the Hope non-traditional scholarship eligibility from ages 25 to 24 and expands eligibility to populations such as student veterans, single parents, and certain foster children. This expands eligibility to approximately 1,100 students. As amended, this bill increases the two-semester award to $4,400 for students their freshman and sophomore years and $5,700 for students in their junior and senior years. This award hasn't been increased since 2008. This bill also, as amended, allows students that completes their first bachelor's degree to continue to receive the scholarship. The bill increases the Hope Scholarship Award to two-year community colleges from $3,000 to $3,200. House Bill 2152 amends the Hope Foster Child Tuition Grant to align with foster child requirements for federal financial aid programs. The bill lowers the age for these requirements from 14 to 13. This bill also helps close the gap on students by expanding access to Reconnect grants to students who are 23 years of age. This expands eligibility to approximately 3,200 students. This bill is about new opportunity for students, especially those of us that actually learn by doing along with reading. I believe God designed all of us with different strengths. Some of us, the more we do with our hands, the more it expands our thinking. It is our job to make sure that we are creating opportunity for all students. I am fortunate to have had a father that instilled hard work and the importance of having a trade. I have worked for myself for most of my life, and it makes it very rewarding to get up and go to work every day. I believe this bill will create paths for not only our workforce, but it will set people up to start their own companies and work for themselves. Isn't that what the American dream is all about? Expanding our education and creating new opportunities for students will help put Tennessee as a leader in workforce development. But more importantly, it will give young people a reason to get up and go to work every day. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
The question has been called. Are there any objection to the calling of the question? Seeing none, Representative Hicks, thank you. This bill addresses a number of issues that I think we've all heard about and tried to deal with for some time. The Hope Scholarship increase, the allowing students to reconnect, to shorten that time period so that they can actually get back and once they've had a little bit of time to find themselves and figure out that they need further education to move forward. So there's a lot of good things in this bill, and I appreciate you bringing it. And we are now voting on House Bill 2152. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 2152 moves on to calendar and rules. You are also recognized, Representative Hicks, on House Bill 2207. We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Representative Hicks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady. House Bill 2207 is a psychology bill. Currently, the Tennessee Board of Psychology can issue a temporary license to an applicant who successfully completed the academic coursework and training and who has not yet taken the required written examinations. If an individual does not take and pass the national exam and jurisprudence exam during this postdoctoral year, then they can obtain a temporary license. This bill, as amended, allows the applicant to take the examination a second time. If the applicant doesn't pass the examination a second time, then the license is revoked 30 days after the second failure. House Bill 2207 allows that during this 30-day period, the transfer of care of the patient can be transferred.
All right, you've heard the sponsor's explanation. Are there questions? Seeing none, we're voting on House Bill 2207. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 2207 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chair Lady, and
Representative
thank you,
Hicks.
committee.
Item number 14 on our calendar is House Bill 2109 by Representative Love. Representative Love, you are recognized. You have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Chair Lady. House Bill 2109 has an amendment with it, I believe.
It's traveling with it.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. This piece of legislation was actually brought to me by Representative Lamar, who is now, of course, Senator Lamar, and it provides an opportunity for us to define what doulas are and talk about how we might, at some point in the future, start certifying doulas. And with that, committee and Chair Lady, I would stand ready for any questions.
You've heard the sponsor's explanation. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, we're voting on the bill. House Bill 2109. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. If you'd like to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk. Representative Love, your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chair Lady and committee members.
Item number 15 on our agenda is House Bill 1544 by Representative Weaver. Do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second. Representative Weaver, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee. Well, here we are. We're again with the infamous, I call it the infamous 24-month registration plate debacle. So what we're going to do, I first want to thank the committee here for bearing with me on this. And I want to thank all the stakeholders that have been in my office. We've been talking about this bill and how we can make this thing work. And in terms of the Department of Revenue and our clerks, especially my constituent who is here today, Mr. Bill Kemp. But I want to thank all the people that put this together. For some reason, proof's in the pudding that government just doesn't do simple. And we thought that we could just do an easy fix where if you wanted to get your plates every 2 years, you'd go to the clerk's office and you'd get this little tag and you'd be able to go in and get your plate and go home and not have to go back every year. That's not going to happen this year. I had an amendment that was not timely filed. And I just got it here about a half hour ago. So with all that stuff in the mix, I'm just going to go ahead and take this off notice, and maybe next year we'll come back with something that'll be a little more easier and feasible. So with that, Madam, there you go.
You've heard from the sponsor. Hang on just a moment, please. sponsor has requested to take the bill off notice. I will note that there's some things happening in this arena from other directions. So Chairman Weaver, we appreciate the fact that you've worked so hard on this and look forward to perhaps having some more discussion about this at a later time. So thank you so very much. Without objection, the bill is off notice.
Thank you.
Item number 16 on our calendar is House Bill 2519 by Representative Sexton. Representative Sexton, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill, what it does is it increases the amount that the road superintendents be able to purchase items. The limit was 10,000, and this bill raises that to 25,000. The $10,000 limit was set in 2005, and it was intent to give superintendents, road superintendents, the ability to move more quickly to respond to routine maintenance. So we figured with the supply chain issues and the increased inflation, this will help road superintendents be able to move quicker and get the supplies that they need. Many times they can't get 3 quotes, they can only get 1. And so this should help them out. And I think it actually saves each county about $1,100 a year in advertisement costs. So with that, I'll take any questions.
And for the record, we did have a motion and a second. I'm not sure I noted that, but we did. And the question has been called on the bill. Without objection, we are voting on House Bill 2519. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 2519 moves on to calendar and rules. Next on our agenda is item number 17, House Bill 1667 by Chairman Whitson. Chairman Whitson, we have a motion and a second. Chairman Whitson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Committee. House Bill 1667, it requires the State Department of Education to employ a certified school librarian to assist local school librarians and LEAs to implement the department's programs and our recently passed age-appropriate legislation. This bill does not increase late fee on books by 1% or higher. With that, Madam, I renew my motion.
Heard the sponsor's explanation. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, without objection, we're voting on House Bill 1667. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 1667 moves on to calendar and rules. Item number 18 on our calendar today is House Bill 708 by Chairman Zachary. Chairman Zachary, you are recognized. You have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. Members, this simply allows the addition of one additional school to participate in the Ben Ashley Opportunity Grant. We appropriate $113 million. That fund is not used. This will allow those students who are financially disadvantaged to participate in this particular scholarship through that institution. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I believe there's an amendment that made the bill, the drafting code 009798, which we do need to attach.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. We are voting on drafting code 009798. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The drafting code is attached, and I believe Chairman Zachary that you have described the bill as amended.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
correct? Are there questions? Seeing none, we are voting on House Bill 708. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 708 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee.
All right, that completes our calendar for today. Before we recess, I am going to go to recognize Chairman Hicks.
Thank you, Chair
Chairman Hicks,
Lady,
you recognize.
members, audience members as well. Budget sub, we will meet back in here, let's say at 3:10. So 3:10, we will meet back for budget sub. Thank you.
Are there any other announcements? Any other business? All right, if not, we stand in recess until members listen. We stand in recess until 9 a.m. tomorrow. 9 a.m.